Hi, welcome to the Soberistas webinar. Tonight we are having a mindfulness lesson with Valerie Mason-John, who is really inspirational, fantastic mindfulness coach. And if you've not seen it, Valerie did a brilliant TED talk, which I would advise you to watch. And Valerie also has written, I interviewed Valerie a while ago for Soberistas. She's the author of a course called 8-Step Recovery, which I also really is well worth a read if you've not read it yet. So I won't babble on for any longer, and I'll hand you over to Valerie, who will just be talking you through mindfulness, what it's about, how to do it, and how it can help with addiction issues. So over to you, Valerie. Thank you.
Thank you for the lovely introduction, Lucy, and it's a great pleasure to be able to be part of Soberistas this evening. It's your evening, it's actually midday for me, it's noon. So yes, I am British, but I live in Canada. I live on the Sunshine Coast in Vancouver, so it's always great when I have the opportunity to do something back in my hometown or my home country. So we are going to focus on mindfulness. So I thought we would do a 3-minute breathing space, which is the backbone of all mindfulness practices. So the 3-minute breathing space is A, awareness of body, feelings and thoughts. G, we gather the breath. And E, we expand the breath throughout the whole body. So I'm just kind of correcting my headset here. So, okay, so if you sit, you can have your eyes open or closed, or you may be lying down, whatever is suitable for you, or you could even be standing too. So just take a deep breath in to just ground you. So breathing in with me. A, become aware of your body. So just noticing the body being supported by your chair, the bed, or the floor. Notice where your hands are resting on your body or beside the body. And having an awareness of clothing touching the body. So this is what we mean when we say having awareness of the body, becoming aware of sensations in the body. So becoming aware if the body is feeling pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, or a mixture of all three. So just noticing what the body physically feels like. For example, my left shoulder is feeling unpleasant, physically unpleasant, and my right shoulder is feeling physically pleasant. So I'm feeling a mixture of those two sensations. Now having an awareness of thoughts, because the body produces physical sensations and sensations produce thoughts. So becoming aware of thoughts arising in the heart mind. And similarly, noticing if your thoughts are of a pleasant nature, an unpleasant nature, a neutral nature, or a mixture of all three. Sometimes we can have exciting thoughts, but they're not necessarily pleasant. And we work with thoughts by gathering the breath in the abdomen, so becoming aware of the abdomen rising and falling as you breathe. Becoming aware of the breath on the upper lip and inside the nostrils. As you breathe in, the breath is cool, and as you breathe out, the breath is warmer. And we continue to work with thoughts by expanding the breath throughout the whole body. So taking a deep breath in with me and expanding the breath throughout the whole body. So this is what we call a breathing. And you can do this in 3 minutes, or you can do it in just one breath. I just saw Lucy pull her face in. Are we okay?
It's just when you move your headphones, it makes a rustling noise.
Okay, all right. So,
Yeah, do that. Very good, yeah.
okay. All right. Okay, great.
Yeah,
So,
that's better. I was very relaxed then. I was doing the breathing exercises and I was drifting off quite nicely.
okay, so first I was going to explain what mindfulness is. So I'm going to share my screen and hopefully this will work. And I'm going to my PowerPoint. Can you see the PowerPoint?
Yep.
Great. So, what is mindfulness? Often people tend to think that mindfulness is going to take a really long time. Mindfulness is about meditating on a cushion or in a chair for 10 hours a day. And that if you're going to do mindfulness, you at least need to be sitting on a cushion or in a chair 1 hour a day. Well, mindfulness isn't just about sitting on a chair or on a cushion. Mindfulness is awareness of every single moment. So that means mindfulness of sitting, walking, standing, lying. In fact, traditionally, these are the 4 ways that you can meditate. But what that means is if mindfulness is traditionally, oh let's try again. I hope that works. My headset fell off there. So can you hear me okay, Lucy?
Yes, that's fine. Yeah.
Great. Okay. So let me just take a breath. So I took a breath just to become aware that there was an awkwardness, there was an unpleasant sensation because my headset fell off and you wouldn't know what was happening because you couldn't see me. And by taking that breath, it stops me from going into automatic pilot and giving myself a hard time, kind of blaming myself, how stupid of me, I should have put my headset on properly. So that's what the breath does. The breath is the backbone of mindfulness. And mindfulness comes from a Pali word sati, which means awareness. And it's awareness moment by moment by moment. It's awareness when we go to the toilet, when we eat our meal, when we're at work, everything that we do. In fact, it's important to remind us that the mindfulness teachings come from the Buddhist tradition. And in the Buddhist tradition, the Buddha taught
mindfulness of the body. He taught mindfulness of feeling, mindfulness of thoughts, and then mindfulness of teachings that point to the truth. And in that 3-minute breathing space, that's what we did. We became aware of our body, we became aware of feelings, and we became aware of thoughts. And when we do this, it can help us be pointed in the direction of the truth. So I wanted to talk a bit about attention, because attention is part of mindfulness. And there are 3 types of attention. So there is the scanning attention that we have all the time as we're going through our lives. At the moment I'm sitting at my computer and I'm looking at my computer screen and I can see the window in front of me, and as I turn my head I see the filing cabinet in my office, or if I was walking along the street I may see a car, then I may see a child, I may see a bus. So our attention is always scanning, and we need that to keep us safe. Then we have what we call alternating attention. And this is when people say, oh, I'm multitasking. But actually, what we're actually doing is we're alternating our attention. In fact, I've actually heard multitasking being called a progression of linear activities. That's all multitasking is. And actually, when we're alternating, what we're doing is, so for example, if my phone rang and I picked up the phone, my attention would go onto the phone. Then I would remember, oh, I'm talking to you, and then I'd come back and say something to you, and then I might go back to the phone and actually say, you know what, I'm in the middle of the meeting, I have to go. So what happens is when we're multitasking is that actually really our attention is really focused on one thing at a time, but we're fleetingly alternating between the different tasks that we're doing. Then we have what's called captured attention. And captured attention is, for example, you could be walking along the street and you hear a loud bang, and that captures your attention. Or you may be out in the country and you see an eagle. Look, there's an eagle, and it captures your attention. Now the thing is, attention is really important, but we need to have peripheral awareness combined with attention if we are going to have mindfulness. So for example, if I'm looking at my telephone and my attention is completely captured by the telephone and I'm walking along the street, I'm going to have an accident. This is why in most countries it's illegal for us to use our telephone and be texting while we're driving, because we may pick up the phone and in those few seconds of us texting we could be rear-ended, or we could have caused an accident, or we may even run somebody over, because our attention is completely on the telephone. It's not possible to have our attention on driving and texting on the telephone, because our whole attention has been captured. And this is really important when we're exploring something like addiction, because what happens is that especially with a relapse, we can be walking along the street, we pass an off license, or we're in a supermarket and we're walking down the aisle and we end up in the aisle where the alcohol is, and our attention has been captured and we get fixated, and when we get fixated we're more than likely going to pick up that bottle of alcohol and drink. So let's look at some of the components of mindfulness. Often it's called the ABC. So we have A for awareness, and we explored that through the 3-minute breathing space, where we become aware of our body, thoughts and feelings and our surroundings. And then B is for being with experience, which is really important because I would say all of us who have had addictions, what we're doing is turning away from the experience in the moment. And it may be turning away from a pleasurable experience. I still, it's crazy, but I can still go out. I'm very fortunate. I live near the ocean and I live near forests, and sometimes I go for a walk in the forest and then I see a waterfall and it's a sunny day and I sit down and I think, oh, this is absolutely wonderful. And you know what would make it perfect? A spliff and a glass of champagne. And I catch the thought and I laugh. And what I'm doing is I'm turning away from the experience. It's like I want more pleasure. I'm not satisfied with the experience I've got. I want to enhance the pleasure even more. So when we learn to be with experience, perhaps it will be a handbrake for us that we can begin to make skillful choices. So this is what mindfulness teaches us to do. It creates a gap where we can begin to make skillful choices. So the things that we learn in mindfulness is, again, that 3-minute breathing space. What we do is we begin to distinguish between thoughts and feelings and bodily sensations. Often I ask somebody, how are you feeling today? And they say, oh, I'm feeling really traumatized. I feel like my friend doesn't love me, and I feel like my friend has abandoned me. But they're not feelings, they're actually thoughts, they're actually stories. They're not feelings, but often we talk about our thoughts as if they're feelings, and this is a trap because, these are my feelings, so nobody can take away my feelings. But the reality is often they're thoughts, and the thing is that thoughts are stories that we tell ourselves. They're not facts. And it's really important for us to distinguish between thoughts and feelings and also bodily sensations, because when we begin to understand that actually something made us feel unpleasant, sometimes people can have a conversation with us and we just feel unpleasant in the body. It feels unpleasant, and if we stay with that experience, we may not react, we may not turn away from it. So it's really important for us to begin to distinguish between thoughts, feelings and sensations. And when we do this, we're less likely to go into automatic pilot. I mean, on a mundane level, I would say, how many of you have ever, been, if you drive a car or you cycle. I remember I'm a cyclist, and I remember the days when I would be cycling home and I thought, how did I get home? I wasn't even on my bike. I was in my head somewhere. Maybe it felt quite pleasurable, but I wasn't on my bike and I was just on automatic pilot. Sometimes one of the habits that I used to have was chewing gum. I was a horrible chewer. And I would come to the end of a day of work and I would just put a piece of chewing gum in my mouth because I didn't want to stay with the experience of just feeling slightly unpleasant in the body, because I felt a bit sad because the day had come to an end. Now, lots of people, what they do is they go home and they open the fridge and they open up a can of beer, or they open up a bottle of wine. And it's just so automatic and we don't even think about it. And so it's really important for us to begin to distinguish between automatic pilot and mindfulness so that we don't react and so that we don't actually get tripped up in a relapse. Yeah, this is one of my favorites, learning to disidentify with thoughts and to contain difficult emotions, because in a way what I would say is mindfulness is teaching us to have thoughts without a thinker, or sounds without a hearer, or my favorite phrase is thoughts without a stinker, because we have all this stinking thinking that goes on in our heads, that telling us that we're no good, that we're unlovable, that, you know, we should have been better, we should have done better, all these thoughts that beat us up. And these are some of the things of why we turn to alcohol and other addictions, because we've identified with these thoughts, we believe these thoughts, and they're so traumatic that actually we just want to block those thoughts out. But I also want to say that actually sometimes, you know, we may pick up alcohol not because we had this awful childhood, or we had this traumatic childhood, or we experienced rape, or we experienced sexual abuse, that trauma. It may be simply that we were somebody who was really shy, and one day we were offered a glass of wine, and oh my God, the whole room turned rosy. It was like somebody had put rose-tinted sunglasses on us, and everything brightened up, and we became bubbly, and we discovered this confidence, and we could be this really confident person in this room, and we could really navigate this room with such confidence and pride. And that was it. So again, turning away from the experience of just being shy. Mindfulness also helps us to create action plans and to become aware of warning signs. And those warning signs are the bodily sensations that I spoke about. You know, when we're feeling unpleasant in the body, that's a warning sign to tell us that we're at risk and we need to take a breath. Or even if we're feeling pleasant in the body, you know, excitement can trip us into this relapse. And if we're feeling pleasant in the body, again, it's telling us that we need to take a breath and have some awareness. Or if we're feeling neutral, because neutral flips into boredom, and boredom can be one of the reasons why we pick up. Okay, so I was going to talk a bit about the emotions underneath alcoholism or underneath addictions. And just to say that my addictions, I had a cocaine champagne habit. I was able to let go of the alcohol. I don't know how, but I just decided that was it. I just needed to stop. And I was also able to let go of the cocaine. That was harder, but again, I was able to stop. And then, of course, I was left with my core addiction, which was food, the eating disorder. I was anorectic, bulimic, and I needed help, a lot of help. I asked for help, and I can say today that I have abstinence and sobriety of mind. But what was underneath all of that? What was underneath all of it? I often hear people who have been alcoholics say, "Oh my God, I let go of the alcohol and I realized just how depressed I was. I wasn't aware of the depression." And in a way, the alcohol had been masking the depression. So I remember clearly when I let go of all my gross addictions, I remember being shocked with horror that my biggest addiction was my stinking thinking. And those are the internal triggers. These internal triggers, I labeled some of that thinking before. You know, I hate myself. I'm no good. I'm unlovable. I'm useless. I'm worthless. Nobody cares about me. And what happens is, you know, when we have those internal triggers, it can trigger substance-related thoughts. And these thoughts of using, you know, these internal triggers can flip us into a relapse. And it's like, oh my God, you know, can't deal with it. Maybe I'll pick up that glass of wine. I'll pick up that can of beer. I'll eat that cream cake. And we start identifying with these thoughts, and what happens is we relapse. But of course, there are external triggers. We could have an argument with our partner. We have an argument with our partner, which is the external trigger, and that becomes an internal trigger because we're feeling crap and we're feeling like unpleasant in the body, and we've got all these negative thoughts going on. And again, we have these substance related thoughts and we end up using. And this is sometimes what we call the cocktail party effect. And it's called the cocktail party effect because, again, it's like this captured attention. So it's often saying that, people at a cocktail party, they have an art of being able to tune out everybody else and focus on that one voice. Okay? And this is what we do when we relapse. We tune out all the stuff. We lose peripheral awareness. I didn't really speak much about that peripheral awareness because what happens is that when we have that cocktail party effect and our mind is captured by these thoughts of using, by these automatic thoughts, we've lost peripheral awareness, and what happens is we're going to use. And what we need to do is open up our peripheral awareness, and that may be just becoming aware of sounds in the room. It may be opening your eyes and looking up to your ceiling or looking around what's in your room so that you open up the aperture, so that you give yourself some peripheral awareness and give yourself some space so that you don't get locked into this captured attention, which is a slippery slope to relapsing. And of course, again, we have these substance related thoughts, and then it becomes conscious, and then we resist. And this is a really important one because I know for me, I used to think, why is it that I said I was never gonna eat that cream cake again, and I saw that cream cake, but I didn't eat it on that day, but a week later I was in the cream cakes. And for some people it's like they were out at dinner, a dinner party, they saw this alcohol and they started having, it was a trigger, and they start having these thoughts and they begin to resist it, and they don't drink. About 2 weeks later they're in a relapse. Well, what's happening is that our attention has been captured by these thoughts, and we've lost peripheral awareness, and by resisting it we've been obsessing. We obsess about it, and we have these urges, and in those urges we identify with the thoughts. There's been an identification with the thoughts, and although we've been able to resist it on that day, 2 weeks later when we're triggered again, we're in the alcohol, we're in the addiction. And so what we have to do is that when we're triggered, we have to learn to be with the experience of the unpleasantness. And when we learn to be with the experience of the unpleasantness, it weakens the resistance. Okay, so again, the self-efficacy, the outcomes, the expectancies, and we get the urges. So I'm going to move on because I'm just aware of time. These in a way, in England it's great. The highways, the different routes that we can go on. So one of the ways that gets us onto this cycle is through the mindless obsessing, and we go up into the substance-related thoughts, and we end up using again, or we get onto this cycle through the external triggers or the internal triggers, and all of this can lead to a relapse. So I'm gonna come back to Google Hangout and stop sharing the screen. Okay, I think you have me back again. Am I still sharing the screen?
I can see me at the moment. I don't know if everybody else can see me.
Great.
Oh, no, there you are. You're back again.
Okay, great. So I wanted to talk about creative ways to work with these negative thoughts, this stinking thinking that we have. How do we have thoughts without a stinker thoughts without a thinker. So I'm just going to take us through a very short meditative exercise called the 4 basic needs of the heart, which is attention, appreciation, affection, appreciation, and acceptance. So these needs are very, very important. They're not needs that I've developed, and there are several books written about these 4 basic needs of the heart, but I developed a meditation around these needs because I was inspired by Deepak Chopra, who did a meditation on the 4 basic needs of the heart, but his pointing and his teaching, he was pointing to us saying that actually it's really important that people give us these needs, and when we have these needs, then that will make us feel a lot more confident. And I remember hearing this, and I remember thinking, I'm not sure I agree with that, and I know that's Deepak Chopra, but let me rewind and let me see if I heard him say exactly that, because sometimes we hear things and actually it wasn't what the person actually said, and again we're believing our thoughts, so it's good to check stuff with people, to have that awareness. And I did rewind it back and I listened to it, and it was what he said. And for me, I just thought, actually no, we need to give ourselves attention. When we give ourselves attention, we're not waiting for people to give it to us. If we give ourselves affection, we're not waiting for people to love us. If we give ourselves appreciation, we're not waiting for one of our colleagues to tell us what a good job you've done. Because if we wait for that and we have the expectation somebody's going to affirm us, it's almost like a premeditated negative state that we're putting ourselves into. We have to learn to appreciate ourselves, and it doesn't matter if people appreciate us or not. The same with acceptance. If we accept ourselves, we're not going to be hungering and waiting for people to accept us. And actually, when we learn to do this, our world really does begin to change, because we're not so needy, and actually people do start accepting us more because they see that we accept ourselves, that we're giving ourselves appreciation, and that we're taking care of ourselves by giving ourselves some attention and affection. So I just want you to just give yourself some attention. Just become aware. Take that breath again. Take a deep breath in and just give yourself some attention as you breathe in and out. And just giving yourself some attentiveness, sitting in your chair or lying on your bed or on the floor. And pay attention to what the body's feeling. Is it pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? Now, pay attention to pay attention to your thoughts arising and ceasing. Now give yourself some affection. So as best you can, bring to mind an image of yourself in your mind's eye. Really see if you can see yourself. So looking at yourself with warm, kind, loving eyes. Give yourself a metaphorical hug. Hold yourself. And nobody's there. You're most probably sitting in front of the screen by yourself. So you could literally raise your arms and give yourself a hug. Hold yourself lean into your arms and give yourself some affection. And as you relax, allowing your arms to fall to your lap with the sense of the weight of a tiny baby in your arms. Looking down at this tiny baby with warm, kind, loving eyes. This baby is you. And bringing this tiny baby closer and closer towards yourself until you've integrated it into your whole being. Affection. And it's okay if it felt unpleasant. That's fine. Just be with the experience. It was unpleasant. Fine. That moment will pass. And it's okay if it was pleasant too, or neutral. Those moments will pass. Appreciation. So just giving yourself some appreciation. Appreciating yourself for tuning in to Soberistas webcam today. 8 o'clock in the evening. You could have been watching the television or surfing the net or out with friends, but you chose to listen in to this webcam and listen to me teach mindfulness. So give yourself some appreciation. That's worth appreciating yourself for. And now, acceptance. All we have to accept is the person who is listening in now. That's all we have to accept. When a narrative pulls us into the past, we've lost the moment because acceptance is in the now. So if we're pulled into the past, we've moved into this negative narrative. We've moved into stinking thinking. And if we're sucked into the future, we've moved into something that hasn't even happened yet. So just accept the person who is sitting or lying with me now. Acceptance. And in this moment, having a strong wish to be at peace. The strong wish to be free of thinking. The strong wish to be free of stories. To be at peace. So thank you. Let's have some questions.
Thank you, Valerie. If anybody has got a question, we'll just have a chat for a couple of minutes and let people write in the questions. But I was just thinking when we were doing that last meditation, there's no way I could have done that 5 years ago when I drank. I absolutely was incapable of liking myself. I just wouldn't have given time even to do this webinar because I wouldn't have thought I was worth doing that. So I think you're absolutely right. People who are watching this, that's a massive thing to do for yourself. It's a really good starting point. And mindfulness, the way I see it, is just it gets easier and easier to do the more you do it. All you have to do is just start being aware. And then it gets easier and easier, and it's second nature now. It's just how I live all the time. I'm very rarely not present, and it's such a nicer, calmer, happier way to live. So I would completely recommend people try sticking with it, even if it feels a bit strange at first. Somebody's written in the text box that she experienced some very unpleasant physical feelings during the acceptance phase. So do you think there is a link there between sort of a difficulty between being able to accept yourself and the body kind of being aware of that and it feeling uncomfortable?
Yeah, I can also see that the same person said when she was paying attention to herself, she yawned. And actually, it's often said that a yawn is a silent scream. I think actually a yawn is healthy. You know, it depends who's doing this meditation. Some people can find all of it unpleasant, and I think, well, the fact that you experienced unpleasant physical feelings is great. That's what, you don't push that away. That's what we're turning away from, and just noticing that actually, that when you were working at giving yourself some acceptance, that actually there was a constriction in the body, that the body most probably got tight. I'm holding my fist then, because it's a bit like if you hold your fist, like Lucy, hold your fist, and I bet you stopped breathing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what happens. Like, we get this unpleasant sensation, we hold our breath, we stop breathing, and we react. And in a way, what we're saying is that when you experience this unpleasantness, take a breath. Just take a breath and just be with it, because it will change. It doesn't last. And that's what mindfulness is about. It's the be. Awareness, and be is for being with experience. Just experiencing, being with the unpleasant sensation. And also, Catriona, I'm not sure whether I should say names or not, so I'm not saying names. But also, she says that she felt the unpleasant sensation in her diaphragm, but it was a lovely, pleasant yawn. And things can be like that. It's like one moment it's pleasant and the next moment it's unpleasant. And I would actually say that if you experience the unpleasant sensation in the diaphragm, that there was most probably some emotion that was about to emerge, maybe sadness, that kind of sadness. And that's great, to be able to be in touch with your body and know that actually you felt that unpleasantness in the diaphragm. Because I want to say that the body is so important. We have the body with us for our whole life, and our body, if we listen to our body, it will tell us when we're at risk. There's been statistics or studies done on women who have been sexually assaulted, and it's said that the majority of women knew that something wasn't right. They felt it in their body, but they ignored it, they pushed it away. But if they had paid attention to what was going on in their body, they may have avoided that situation. So that's how important.
I think that's a important thing there as well, about alcohol. That's what I found. When you drink, you numb those that kind of sixth sense, that gut. You don't listen to your body because you're so hungover or you're craving a drink so much that the body to the mind connection is gone. And when you've stopped drinking for a long time, it comes back. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's a completely real sixth sense that you can live by.
Yeah.
Wisdom in your body, definitely.
Yeah.
And it goes with
Yeah.
wisdom.
Yeah. And that's and it's great that you bring that in, because in a way, when we use the alcohol or anything else, it's like we're wanting to get away from the body. We're wanting to numb the experiences in the body. We're wanting to get out of the body. We're wanting to get out of our head and wrecked. And what mindfulness is saying is, get back in the body.
Mm-hmm.
Experience the body. feel the body, have awareness of the body. Yeah. So there's another question that's come in. Do you suggest taking a specific amount of time each day for meditation? If you're new to meditation, I would say, yeah, say do 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes a day, 5 or 10 minutes a day. It's better to do 5 or 10 minutes a day than to do half an hour one day and then not do it again for 2 weeks. So yeah, if you could find 5 or 10 minutes a day, I think that'd be absolutely brilliant, and you'll be surprised that actually you think, 5-10 minutes, I feel like I want to sit more. So I would really encourage that. There's another question there at the top.
Yeah, can you read that one, or do you want me to read it?
Yeah. Thanks so much for the talk. I've been practicing mindfulness for around 6 months now, but I struggle to fit in a meaningful session during the working week. Is there an optimum time, morning or evening, to try and get into a routine? Well, you could practice mindfulness with one breath. So when you wake up in the morning, you could take a breath. Just now, I'm going to practice mindfulness. And I've just become aware of the body. I'm aware that my mouth is feeling quite unpleasant because I've had dental surgery, which was, yeah, we won't go into that, but yeah, so there's a lot of soreness. And it's great just to experience it, because I think, there's part of me wanting to turn away from it, but actually to just be with it. That's practicing mindfulness, just taking a breath. See, you could take a breath in the morning. If you drive a car, when you get into your car and before you turn on the engine, you could just take another breath. That would be practicing mindfulness. Or you could just bring into mind the people you're going to see that day. I say to people, I used to start the day with a cigarette and a cup of coffee, and with negative thoughts about the people who I'm going to see. I now start the day with meditation and a litre of water and positive thoughts about who I'm going to see, in my day. And that is really practicing mindfulness. I mean, I didn't even talk about the three-legged stool metaphor for mindfulness. So on one leg you have awareness, and awareness of thoughts, feelings and body. Another leg is kindness, and we've spoken a bit about that. We did a kindness practice, the 4 basic needs of the heart, of just learning to be kind to ourselves, and then we will be kind to others. Kind with the thoughts, kind with our experience. And then the other leg is ethics. And ethics is really important. And, those of you who have been alcoholics or had any other addictions will know how unethical the lies we've told, the cheating we've done. Often people don't want to sober up because they just don't want to face the unskillful, unethical past that they've had. And we do have to do that, but not with shame and not with negativity. The past is the past, and we can have healthy remorse, but to beat ourselves up about it, we have to move on and say, you know what, we did that, we're really sorry, we can't correct it, but what we have now is now, and we can change this moment now.
Yeah, I think that is an issue that comes up so many times, is, you have to let go of regrets and have to stop beating yourself up. I read so much on Soberistas about that. It is a hard one, and you don't want to, you don't want to have people think that you don't care about what you've done. But once you get into that kind of mindful way of living, and you appreciate that we only have right now, everything else is a construction for the past, the future. It's just kind of, it makes sense to just sort of live now and let go of all of that. It becomes easier with mindfulness, I think. It just teaches you to do that.
Yes, mindfulness teaches us to let go of expectations, because it's been said that expectations are premeditated resentments. So what happens is that we start practicing mindfulness, and we have a healthy remorse around our past actions, and we apologize to people, and we expect them to receive that well. But it may be that that other person isn't mindful, and we just have to accept that. Just because we've changed doesn't mean to say that everybody else around us has changed. Some people might still be really angry with us, and that's their stuff.
Yeah.
That's their stuff and what they have to deal with. And we have to know that actually sometimes, people might not want to forgive us, but we can forgive ourselves, because some people don't want to. They feel like, oh, well, we're not going to forgive you. Why should we forgive you? We're going to punish you. But all they're doing is punishing themselves because they're holding on to negative stuff. But if we learn to forgive ourselves and know that, we did these past actions, we have healthy remorse around them, we can't change it, we're sorry, and we're doing the best we can now, that's all we can do. We have to recover from our past actions and not beat ourselves over the brow with them.
Yeah, and anything else is just wasted emotion. Yeah, I think that's it for the questions. The last comment is just a thank you for you giving this talk, which I would echo. It's really, really lovely talking to you. I just find it very calming and pleasant. My thoughts
Thank you. So I just wanted to do a little plug. A little plug. If you're interested with mindfulness, I'm actually running an online mindfulness-based addiction recovery course. So it's a skills-based course where you'll get tools to work with that negative thinking, just tools to improve your sobriety. I talk about abstinence. When we're abstinent, we've put down the bottle, we've put down the can, we've put down the alcohol. Sobriety for me is sobriety of mind. That's the second part of our recovery. And so this is what this course is about. It's 4 weeks. It's happening the month of July, and it's online. There's 4 pre-records and also 4 interactive sessions with me. And I think in sterling it's about £90, so it's not expensive. And if you sign up this month in May, before the end of May, I know it's cheaper. So
you're going to
check it out.
You're going to write into Soberistas. Will you include an email address or contact details so people?
Yeah, I will send you the link. I will send you the link to that for sure.
And we'll post that tomorrow or Thursday on Soberistas with a bit of a recap of what we've talked about tonight. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, thanks ever such a lot. I really enjoyed that, and thanks everybody for tuning in, and hope you found that helpful. As I said at the beginning, if you want to find out a bit more about this and the thinking line of thought that Valerie was talking about, there's a really good TED talk that Valerie did. When did you do that TED talk?
Oh, I did it in 2013, I think. 2013. Yeah.
Okay. If you search Valerie Mason-John on TED Talks, it's good. Okay, so I'm saying good night, and thank you again, Valerie.
Thank you, Lucy, and thank you, Sean, too, for making this webinar possible. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.